Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
Thanks to Tribooth, the best vocal booth for home or on-the-road voice recording. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. Introducing Robert Marshall from Source Elements and Someone Audio Post, Chicago. Darren Robertson from Voodoo Radio Imaging, Sydney. Tech to the VO Stars. George the Tech Whittam from LA. And me, Andrew Peters, voiceover talent and home studio guy.
Line up, learner!
Here we go.
And welcome to another Pro Audio Suite, thanks to Tribooth. The golden handcuffs are removed with your Tribooth, and don't forget the code TRIPAP200. That will get you $200 off yours. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. We're once again joined by Matt Cowrick. Afternoon, evening, morning, g'day, whatever time it is when you're listening to this. We got a question, and it was actually sent from our mutual agent, Matt, in Australia, asking if we could help out with some recommendations for gear for people setting up their first home studio, for voiceover, of course. So we thought we'd do a bit of a round table and just come up with some ideas. I think
Can of worms,
but it's got to be like, moderate budget, microphone interface, headphones, and probably a space. We need to talk about that as well, because there's no point having all that stuff in the middle of the kitchen.
Well, you've got to start with space, don't you, really?
Yeah.
You've really got to start with space. I'm happy to lead off here. I mean, I've built my wife, for those who don't know, does
You built your wife?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I built my wife.
He's very talented.
That's another episode. Actually, we're going to do a whole podcast.
That's a whole other episode. Absolutely.
What a brave new world.
But I actually built her a booth in our walk-in wardrobe, which is perfect. There was one bare wall which I've put some treatment on, but then just put clothing around, and just by sort of playing with the amount of clothing that was in a certain spot, I've managed to build her a little sort of booth that works magically. And she is on a 41.6, because at the time there was only about 3 mics in the house compared to now. And so I've been lazy and never changed it, I guess because her clients have got used to that sound as well. And she's just on an AI1. So God, what's that work out to? Well under.
The 41.6 is the big piece.
The 41.6 is the big one. And you could knock that out and make it an NTG5.
Or a 4.
Probably just as easily.
Or an NTG1. Or an NT1, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you looking at there? You're looking at well under.
$250 for the
well
mic.
Under.
US.
Well, the NT1, you just buy the pack, the sort of combo kit of the AI1 and the NT1. And
as long as it's not the NT1A.
Not the NT1A. That pack comes with just the NT1.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one I might throw in there is the OC16.
What's the OC16 then, like 400?
400 US.
I'm hopeless with prices, but yeah, it's not, especially US prices, but yeah, it's sort of in the same ballpark as the others, I guess.
I always think like the NT1 is like the beginning of a mic that's pretty much an investment. You can use it for all time. It's something that you'll keep.
Yeah. Probably the only thing with the OC16 is, without being able to select patterns and stuff, you'd want to make sure that your room was in reasonably good shape. It could get messy.
Yeah.
So if your room's in reasonably good shape, it would probably be all right. But yeah, they'd be my pick for a low cost. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the AI1 and the NT1 is a good starting point if you don't want to spend too much money. OC16, they're about $500 US for one of those, but then you've got an interface you want. So would you get an AI1, or would you step it up a bit? I mean, I've got the little SSL2 interface.
Yeah, something with more gain. I mean, you may or may not need it, but my feeling on the AI1 is it's a little bit weak on the preamp. It's okay that it kind of doesn't have many features, like the monitor is just a push button. It's really good and simple, but the preamp's a little bit weak on it, I think.
But if you had an NTG5, because that's got massive output, that would work okay with an AI1.
Yeah. It's just a less flexible interface.
Yeah, what I do like, and we experimented with this a few episodes back, was the SSL2 with that 4K button. You can actually, really have one mic and make it, turn your mic into a 41.6.
Well, it was the OC, was it the 18 or the 818?
The OC, it was actually, I said it was the OC18, but when I think about it now, it's actually 818. But it was on cardioid, so no difference there.
Yeah. So the 18 would probably work just as well. And once you hit that 4K button, it was like you had 2 mics in one, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great idea.
And those SSLs are what, like $300?
Yeah. So they're pretty good, actually. I think they're great value, actually.
How much is the AI one compared to like a Scarlett Solo?
About the same kind of money, I think. Maybe a little bit more for an AI one.
I think the Scarlett's a slightly better piece. But George, what's your opinion?
I don't know. I've had too many AI ones be freaky, not super stable.
I've had at least one go out on me.
Yeah.
I've not been recommending that
towards
one.
that Scarlett.
Tanae's had hers in the booth now for 3 years, probably.
Yeah.
I don't think they
Easily
do well on the
3
road,
years.
actually. But Andrew, you've traveled with yours quite a bit, right?
I did travel with it quite a bit, and then Somerset took it all over the place when she was away. So she's got it in her bag now.
I don't know if it's the batches or what. It's like I definitely had one go out on me, and I think George did.
Maybe it's the switching or something. But I do also really like the having just recently got one, the Micport Pro.
Super small.
Yeah. That's what you use, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, when traveling.
And the pre on that is surprisingly decent for just like little 5-volt USB deal.
Well, having said that, I suppose you could, if you're setting up your first studio, there's no reason you couldn't use a Micport Pro. Let's be honest.
The Micport Pro though jumps up. I mean, how much is a Micport Pro? $300, right?
I think US it might be. Is it 300?
Oh, yeah, it's more than that. I think it's 350.
Yeah, I was thinking it was like 450 Canadian.
But it's a good piece because, like, I always think of these things as are like, what are you going to buy that you might keep instead of just getting the cheapest thing? What's the cheapest thing that still is somewhat an investment? And it's hard to beat the Micport Pro in terms of a travel interface.
But you could do like we talked about last week with the car kit, the car rig. Just sticking a 41.6 or an NTG5 straight into the Micport Pro. And all you need is your mic stand in your booth is just the adapter, the camera connector that connects to the bottom of the Micport Pro. So
I think if you plan on doing the car thing, a shotgun is...
We're not going to cars, kids. That's black belt. We're doing beginner studios.
Yeah. I was going to say we're getting well out of the realm of beginner studios here. Yeah, exactly.
One thing I like about the Micport Pro is that you don't need software to run it, and so you don't have to deal with any of that, planned obsolescence or those sorts of problems. As long as the circuitry and like the physical parts in the Micport Pro are going, then it can last you for a long, long time.
And from what I know is like, if you're getting a Micport Pro, you're getting the same, like if you get the Passport VO, you're getting the same grade circuitry, the same quality preamp. Everything is... Is
it the Jasmine preamp?
Yeah. Everything runs on their Jasmine preamp circuit design, which is a good, clean, high gain preamp. It's hard to go wrong. There's one little thing that I don't like about their battery powered products, which is why the Passport does not have a battery. And you tell me if this is true for you that use this product, is it has to have some charge to function.
Don't run that thing down.
It will
That's
not.
Right.
It will not like go from dead to working in 10 seconds.
I think the battery acts like a capacitor for the whole thing.
Yeah. Have you noticed that?
I definitely have. I remember helping a very stressed out talent because I finally figured out is this had to be plugged in, and all of a sudden the computer's like, hello. But it had to be plugged in for a while. I had to charge up.
Yeah.
Because I think they bought it and then like didn't touch it for 6 months.
Well, that's the thing. When it's a battery powered product that you use for your travel kit, it is going to be dead when you pull it out. So if you think I'm going to pull it out of my bag, plug it in, and hit record, and within the first 10 seconds, sorry, Charlie, not happening. It's got to charge. Uh-huh. So that's the only thing, and that's one of the reasons why the Passport does not have it. But I digress. Shall I now tell you what I would recommend?
Yes.
Oh, no. Wait, Andrew, shouldn't this be the end?
The end of what? My life?
That's our out.
That's our out.
Yeah, that's right.
George.
Let's cut out before the others go.
In the background, I think he should use a 440.
And the killer was.
I'm not going to make any sponsors happy, but that's okay. That's not the point. I think a mic that just repeatedly surprises me in how good it sounds at the price is the AT875R shotgun mic from Audio Technica. It just sounds good. Is it the lowest self noise? No. It's a little hissy when you compare to like a large diaphragm condenser for sure. But its tonal balance, just the EQ of the mic, the fact that it is a shotgun mic means it's a little bit more forgiving to less than great rooms. and it just always sounds good. So that's my choice for first-timer mic, when I have plenty of options to choose from, of course. And then for the interface, one that we never talk about, again, really budget conscious here, folks. Steinberg came out with a new variation of their UR series called the IXO series. And there's the Steinberg IXO 22 audio interface. And what makes it stand out are a few things. One, it's $120 US. I'm sorry, the IXO 12. There's also a 22. So the 12 is the single mic preamp variation. It's very inexpensive, right? 120 US. And it has a few little tricks up its sleeve. Not only does it have a loop back mode, but it has a monitor, it has a mute button. So it's got dedicated mute on-off switches for the mic and the guitar input. And then when you hold down the monitor button, it engages loop back. I mean, for 120 US, that's pretty clever for a pretty small, easy to use interface. That's my recommendation there at the beginner price point level. And then headphones, we didn't mention headphones yet. You know, I'm not very picky about headphones. I think headphones have to be worn to appreciate. And so you just got to try stuff out. I mean, if you've got a pair of headphones that you already wear and you like, go ahead and use them. Even if they're Beats, even if they're not like the best studio headphones, if you know them and like them, wear them, is my opinion.
If they're, but they should be closed back.
And make sure they seal well.
Yeah, they should be closed.
They should be closed back, yes. Closed back cans. So I've got a couple different closed back cans that I jump between, but you know, at the budget end, the Audio Technica series, the ATH-M 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
All are amazing. The Austrian Audio Hi-X 15s. Yeah.
They're good.
The 15s. Hi-X 15.
Hi-X. Yeah,
right?
you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have those and I love them. I've been wearing them more and more and more now because they're just so stinking comfortable. Really comfortable and they sound nice. So, that headphone is the same price as the interface. That's right. But, yeah, you can get cheaper headphones, you know. So,
yeah.
And then Twisted Wave is my go-to DAW too. We didn't mention DAWs, but because it's Windows and Mac now, I can build custom stacks on the Mac variation of Twisted Wave that you can open in the Windows variation, which is really cool.
Crossing the streams
by using VST plugins. So, you know, 100 US for that software. And that's a pretty solid kit right there. You know, a couple little more accoutrements for mounting your accessories in your closet.
What's your thought of the 7506 cliche for headphones? You don't like them,
You know, it's so funny. We have them at the Don LaFontaine Voiceover Lab that we're fixing to reopen soon. I was actually over there last week and testing out all the patching in the walls and making sure everything works. And that's what they have there, you know. So I was listening to them for the first time, I would say with fresh ears. You know, I hadn't had a pair of Sonys on my head in quite a while, and I was pretty pleased with how they sounded. So, you know, maybe because they're broken in, maybe because I'm not as sensitive to high frequency as I used to be. But, you know, they're decent. I think they're just fiddly with a really annoying cable, and I don't know, not my major.
They fold up. They fold up pretty good.
They fold up. But the coily cable is annoying. You know, I'm not a fan of that. But anyway, that's
if you don't take care of the coily cable and it gets stretched out in weird places, it gets really annoying.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, when you like Matt was saying last week about, you know, having the Universal Audio outboard gear that has since been moved on. The more we go down this track of these interfaces and stuff, talking about the Passport VA that will be with us very soon, fingers crossed. All that stuff is fast becoming redundant. Really, the travel rig you could stick in your booth, and that's all you really need, to be honest.
It's true.
That's why I wonder about that Audio Technica mic. Do you consider that something that someone might keep in their kit long term, or at some point they definitely outgrow it and it's...
Like I said, I think its only shortcoming is its self noise is a little bit elevated. You know, I know the sound of that mic because I've heard it a lot. And when I hear the self noise, I go, yep, it's little Achilles heel.
It works on a pretty wide range of Phantom.
Yeah, it's a very robust throw in your video. It's the kind of mic that would not be treated nicely. It would be kept in the camera guy's kit, and not respected. That's that mic. It's really made to be strapped onto a video camera and just be there. But it's just shockingly decent. It's just a really pleasing sounding mic, not harsh, not overly crisp and bright, not dead flat, because there's...
What's the other Audio Technica? There's the Audio Technica 435?
Well, there's a 4073, and I had a 4073. That was my boom mic of choice when I started into the biz 20 years ago, and it sounds awesome. I had Lori Allen get one for her road kit just to save a little bit of money. And it's not much cheaper than a 41.6, but it's less expensive. And it's a very good mic. I believe they still make that model too.
I think there's another one. There's an Audio Technica shotgun mic that actually works off a Phantom or AA.
They make a lot of different shotgun mics.
8035, I think. I think the AT8035. Let me see if that's...
Could be. Yeah, because by the way, that's no longer called the AT4073. It's now called the BP 4073. So if somebody's searching and not finding it, they change the name. But
I would kick off and just bite the bullet, buy a 41.6, a Micport Pro, and a pair of decent headphones and Twisted Wave, and you're on. That would be, because you're not going to be sort of having to reinvest down the track going,
you like the buy once, cry once kind of mentality.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even with the Micport Pro, if you develop a need for an extra workflow, and if you want to be able to, because I think the Micport Pro, you can't plug monitors in, right?
No, you would have to plug into the headphone jack, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you can scale around it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good piece of kit to have to travel, and I think it's something that as your career grows, it could be your first setup, but then it becomes your travel setup. And that's why I try to think of gear that is going to be kind of long-term, because you can imagine you might get a 41.6, but you might not want to travel with it because it's expensive. And if you have an NT1, you might say, hey, whatever, I'll travel with my NT1, and here's my travel rig. And so it's something that works early on can work well into your career if it's the right gear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Matt, we haven't heard from you yet. If you had to start again, what would you be doing?
Engineer.
Marry an engineer.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go.
I think AP's point of starting with a good mic and then having an interface that you can grow from if need be is a really good idea. As an alternative to the 416, I did have to get the NTG5 in a pinch when I was traveling, and it's a very fine mic.
Yeah,
I think it's a cheaper alternative to the 416. I mean, the only thing I would throw in there as a new offering would be the Apollo Solo. I've used that for travel in the past, but as a standalone interface in a studio, it's great, and you can really plug everything you need into there. If you at some point decided to add an extra microphone into your workflow, it does have that second input, or you can use a stereo modeling mic like we talked about in the previous episode.
Yeah, you can definitely grow into an Apollo Solo for a while.
Yep.
Is a twin or a Solo? Is that the same? Because the Arrow, what's the Solo? Is that
the Arrow became the Solo. Yeah.
The Arrow became the Solo. So that you just don't have the same number of physical outputs, I think, is the main thing.
I've got one sitting here in the booth.
The twin has additional line outs. And so that has more routing. It has more cues. The twin also can run multiple virtual channels, like 4 pairs, and the Solo can only do 1 pair of virtual channels.
The Solo still seems to give a good amount to grow into. Does the Solo have the full unison preamp and all?
Yep.
All that stuff.
Yep. And the other nice thing I like about the Solo is that it runs off Thunderbolt just from your computer. So it's powered from your computer. So you don't need, bus powered. Thank you. So you don't need that external power source if that's a problem. The only thing about the Apollo gear is that there is that learning curve of the system within it, the console.
Add to the cost the hiring of me to set it up for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Although I do have a forum on uadforum.com. There's one on there specifically for voiceover people, and I lay it out there. I literally have screenshots of my entire workflow of how to set it up. So I do provide it for free.
Give it away, George.
There you go. There's a tip, people.
Yeah,
there's a tip. Let me ask you, Matt and AP, this same question. For someone who's just starting out, then, if we're talking about rigs for someone who's starting out, connectivity, is that necessary in terms of like a Zoom connection or Source Connect? Do we need Source Connect? Do we need the ability to at least connect to Zoom if you're going to have a home studio? What would be your thoughts on that?
I think it's more important than ever to at least have those functions spring-loaded, ready to go. Like even if you haven't bought Source Connect or you haven't needed to use Zoom on a session, I think as part of your tech development and being a voice talent, you need to get these things under control, because the day is going to come when an agent either comes with a direct booking or you've done an audition for something with Source Connect and then it's required, and you just need to have that functionality ready to go. That's kind of relating to playing within a certain circle of work, or for tiers, for want of a better word. But if you want to work with particular studios and particular buyers, then I think you just need to have that ready to go.
Yeah. I agree. And so it's like being I always use this analogy. If you are a qualified plumber and you turn up with a tool bag full of kids' toys, you're not going to get the work.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in this game, you get the right gear. So you do need a good microphone, a good space, a good interface, the means to be able to record and edit, and also the means to be able to do a session down the line, which means you've got to have Source Connect. And in fact, during COVID, that was it was mandatory. I mean, every agent was saying, this is what you need to do to set up at home.
Yeah. But to be fair, that's at a certain tier. I mean, people doing rip and reads on, Fiverr or some of these voiceover platforms, they're not going to be necessarily need Source Connect, but they're probably going to need to at least to be able to connect to Zoom or something similar like that, correct?
Yeah, maybe. Usually those Fiverr people, they don't work with people. It depends if you're being asked to do
live record sessions or if you're being asked to record stuff and turn in files, even if you're just in a meeting room and they say, hey, record and send us the files later, and they're just using the meeting room as a way to give you general direction, then that might be all you need. I think the reality with Source Connect is it really should easily pay for itself. If you're...
Yep.
Yeah.
If you need it,
here's another one. I'm going to throw this out there. Some people who make podcasts aren't as lucky as us to have Robert on the show so that they get access to Source Connect and all these other amazing things we get the privilege of. What would you guys recommend? And Matt, if you've got a thought on this, please feel free to throw in as well. What would you guys suggest in terms of recording interviews for podcasters?
I just connected someone with buying the Rodecaster Pro, or is the interface?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
bring the phone in through the Bluetooth connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a bad one. Yeah.
So is this doing interviews over the internet or interviews in person?
Well, this is what I'm saying. Interviews over the internet. Yeah. If you had to do a remote interview, if you were a podcaster, George, what would your choice be?
Well, I mean, if I had to do it all the time, I would love having a dedicated interface mixer type device that does that really well. I mean, the Rodecaster Pro does that really well because it has two separate sound buses, one for record and one for communication. It makes it super, super easy to capture an interview no matter what software that interview is going to be on. It could be on literally anything. It's agnostic, which is exactly the design philosophy behind the Passport VO as well, right? That's why we have two audio interfaces on board. Same concept, just in a much more compact, way simpler form factor, but same idea. But yeah, that would be my first choice. If you want to keep it in the software domain, there are things like Nexus and Nexus Gateway where you can.
It's free.
And that is free to use to connect to others. The audio quality over Nexus, when set to HQ mode, is extremely high quality. So it will just make the experience of recording all the nicer.
And you can see each other.
And you can see each other as well.
In the free version, you can't, but yeah.
Oh, what's the pay version with video cost per month? You know, off the top of your head?
$11. It's $12.
Yeah, it's really
a couple of coffees. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
what do you think the learning curve is like for people that are outside, you know, doing voiceover or engineering, Robert, for getting onto Source Nexus for say doing a podcast? Like if someone is just fresh going into podcasting.
I think where it's at right now is not where it's intended to be for podcasting. So I think it's going to get a lot easier, essentially, where you have a system where you can send invites out, everyone hooks up, you hit a button to record instead of everyone hitting individual buttons and snapping their fingers. That process is automated. And then, you'll probably get a certain amount of space that it just automatically uploads back to. So should be a packaged thing to make it really easy to do podcasts where the recordings are made locally and uploaded, like what a lot of the other
double
services
ender,
do.
but with the file transfer
automated
function
double
wrapped into it. Yeah, that makes it so much nicer for the guests and things.
It's like with Source Connect free or Nexus free, you get the double end. But you have to do it manually, and then we'll have all that built in with the paid version.
I mean, by far the hardest thing for podcast remotes is dealing with the guest's audio and trying to get it, not horribly bad.
Exactly.
And that takes some preparation, that takes some great communication, and that may, in the worst case, require you to send them a mic.
It takes knowing what you're listening for.
Yeah.
Being able to have the wits to isolate that and listen to what they're really sending you.
Yep.
I used to work on a podcast. It was called the Mojo Radio Show, and it was sort of anything and everything to do with personal creativity and all that sort of gear. But the whole point of it was supposed to be a high quality thing, which obviously it was. But we actually got to the point in the show, and unfortunately it ended before we got there. But we were actually talking about that. We were actually talking about buying a couple of small road cases and throwing, like something like an AI one and a decent mic in there and shipping it off to people who had crap audio.
We've done that. I've done that as part of our studio. We had we did MacBook Airs with little. I think, we just went really cheap, to be honest. We did Behringer interfaces with Behringer mics.
But that's all you need for a podcast, something that's half decent quality.
The thing you're the most worried about losing is the MacBook. You're like...
Yes,
exactly.
Well, I don't think we were going to be that generous and buy Macs. I think it was just going to be plug this into your computer. But
the way we set it up was so that you open the Mac up and all you have to do is put it on Wi-Fi and then shows up on a team viewer type thing and you're in. And then, and then the last thing we made all the cables so that imagine like a red sticker on the Behringer and a red sticker on the mic cable. You're like, just match the colors.
That's right.
I think that's a great direction for the Pro Audio Suite podcast. Maybe starting today. Sending out MacBooks.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, or maybe we could send out Teslas as well.
Yeah, exactly. The ones with all the stuff stuck inside. Yeah.
Hello, Elon, if you're listening, want to join in? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
God, imagine the guests we'd have lining up then. Wow.
Exactly. They'd be begging to be on the show.
It's all about the
I reckon, just as a conclusion, I guess, just my last 2 bobs worth, and also looking after our sponsor. But I always try and get things that are going to last a long time but can be used in different environments. So if you can take it on the road with you and have it set up at home, that's a win-win. So I would probably wind it back a bit and go Tribooth 41.6 and an SSL2.
Tribooth, I would agree with you. That would be a great sound, but I wonder whether Tribooth and 41.6 together is blowing our budget a little bit.
Is a Tribooth a beginner thing, or that sounds like someone who's seasoned?
Well, it's not cheap, but
this is the tricky thing about beginner stuff and budget. The two are mutually exclusive, honestly. Mm-hmm. Because I get people that enter the industry all the time that are executives from companies that have just retired or they're starting a new career. And they absolutely could buy the $250 instant voiceover or podcasting kit and get to work. but they are in a position to buy better stuff, and they do appreciate the better stuff. And so they buy, on my recommendation, better stuff. So it really does depend on where you're coming from. Just know what your budget is. Just have a clear understanding of what it is. Don't overextend, don't overspend, but don't underspend, and don't spend down market too much.
And know if you're buying something for a long time or if you're buying something that you know you're going to replace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you plan on replacing.
I would think about where that budget can be best spent. Like if you've got a crappy room, there's no point spending your budget on great gear. You'd be better off spending the budget getting your room up to scratch and then just buying okay gear.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're also seeing entire studios going up on eBay right now.
Yeah.
I had a client who just bought a Studio Bricks 1 Plus, and the guy said, "Oh, do you also want my TLM 103 and my Apogee Duet to go with it?" And he bought the whole kit, right? And we're like, interesting, And I was thinking, this is probably one of those cases of, hey, this voiceover thing sounds pretty cool during the pandemic. Let me get into that. They buy the entire kit and then they forget to save another 10 grand for coaching, or they have no idea what they're getting into. They bought the gear, they bought the stuff, and then they didn't know that they have to either budget for that, or they just didn't know the time that they had to put in. And I think a lot of it is that. So have all of that in mind when you launch into this career, and talk to us, talk to folks who know. And there's a lot of really, really good resources online. We won't steer you wrong.
But there's the question we got from our agent was for people who are obviously signed and working, but they do want to get set up at home as well. So that they've already got a decent income, and that's why I kind of think, well,
see, in the U.S., that situation does not exist.
Yeah,
you absolutely already have a working pro home studio if you're going to get signed. The reverse doesn't happen unless you're a celebrity. If you're a celebrity, that's a whole different category. But if you're a regular workaday voice actor and you've gotten signed, you already have a pro studio. Full stop.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're working from home more likely than in the studios at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there are exceptions. There's animation in Hollywood. There's a whole subset of voice actors who do not have a home studio. They literally go punch a clock,
Yeah.
And that's just a very unique situation on the world, the world map of voiceover, right?
Well, here's an interesting question for Matt. How much work do you do from home? Is it all from home, or do you travel?
Oh, especially now, it's all. Before COVID, I went over to Vancouver for work. But that was also really just for animation and documentary recording. Those were what required me to be in studio. And my agent has also always been very good at advocating for my home studio. So even if they wanted me to come across to record for a commercial, he would push back. And now couldn't imagine being asked to come over to Vancouver for anything. It's so unlikely.
Same here. All of my work is done from here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, George, I have a question. What's your feeling on a mic like the Antelope that's $250, and is the interface and the headphones and the blend and the real-time DSP?
Oh, Presonus has that for $79.
And the microphone models?
Yeah.
Oh, Presonus also has a microphone modeling one?
Oh, actually, I'm not sure if it models, but it has like the full mix minus console, all the routing, all that stuff. But yeah, the Edge mics from Antelope.
Yeah, the Edge mics from Antelope. Yeah, exactly.
The problem isn't the mic technology, it's the company. That's the problem.
Yeah, that shit.
Yeah.
And Antelope is an extremely innovative company, but there's just so many situations where people are like frustrated with their customer service and the consistency of the gear, and that's the downside. They can prove me wrong anytime by sending me one so I can use it and tell you that it's good.
Of course.
Yeah. If you're listening, Antelope. But other than that, it's not a brand I can get behind. But from an innovation standpoint, they're one of the companies out there innovating, so very cool stuff that they are doing, and have huge potential.
They seem to be better than the Slate, not quite as good as the Sphere, but lets you dabble in that. It's I don't think it's a piece of gear that's a long-term investment. Don't get me wrong, but if you are going for
cool to play with and very has good potential. It's going to take some time for them to earn my trust in terms of a brand, unfortunately, for a home studio user that doesn't have the wherewithal to have a lot of, alternative gear. If it's the difference between buying one very expensive thing and maybe two more affordable things, you may want to buy two more affordable things because backups can be pretty important. I mean, if you can't get another mic quickly,
I do think it's interesting that everyone was asked, what's intro budget gear? And no one went for a USB mic.
I was just going to ask you guys about that. Yeah, because I think that's still a recurring theme that I hear from people who are like, voiceover, eh? And then their first step is the USB mic that they saw in JB Hi-Fi or Best Buy. Yep. So where are you guys at the moment on that? Because I think people that follow on from this question from Scout might have USB mics in their mind.
My opinion of the USB mics is that they are definitely not a long-term investment, and one day it will be no good. You're probably not getting the best of any of it, but I bet the overall quality between that and something, quite honestly, like a AI1 and maybe not an NT1, but something shooting a little bit lower than that, like an Audio Technica 2020. It's like you're getting what you pay for, but you could definitely do some damage with a USB mic. Just don't think that you're buying anything that's going to be long term.
Yeah, future proof.
Definitely outgrow
it's not
it.
Future proof. Yeah.
I think we tested one of the Rode USB mics, and it was pretty good from memory.
NT1 Gen 5.
Like you and Andrew.
That's
got one.
the one. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh yeah, the NT1 USB function is really good. I mean, I did a whole video about the 32-bit float technology, comparing it and testing it, showing people how it works, and it totally worked. But I mean, it's every mic has a downside with USB. They're either really good USB mics, but they're terrible for users because they have no headphone jack, no monitor controls, no nothing. Or they're the other direction and they have a lot of gadgets, bells and whistles, knobs and such, and then they're kind of cruddy sounding.
Right, so they're too confusing.
Yeah, there's very little that really checks every single box, that I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, like in one USB mic. And then if you're spending $600 or $700 on a USB mic, and there are a few out there, I think that's silly. Like you could buy a $400 really good mic and a $300, $200 really good interface and a good $50 mic cable and have a much more professional setup, and be respected more because you have a professional setup. It's not that you can't do it with the USB mic. It just doesn't have the optics of being a professional kit.
Well, and you run into other stupid stuff. Like as soon as you want to get away from your computer, you can't, because then you get a really long USB cable.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that.
The thing starts breaking and not working.
Cable length is a major problem for USB. Yeah, it really does not. It is not happy going more than maybe 3 meters if you're lucky. And so that's a big deal, and it can be a frustrating experience for you guys. So that's another great point.
Well, there you go. Hopefully, we've answered a question or two.
We've probably created a whole bunch more.
I think you're probably right.
Just write them and send them to Robbo.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, I have a coupon code. If you do buy a Micport Pro through my website, there's a coupon code on there. So if you go to georgethe.tech and check out my gear recommendations page, there is a coupon code for the Micport Pro. I just realized that. I forgot.
Nice plug.
So
nice plug.
Go get it. Go get it.
And you
just have to, your next piece of studio gear is just to go buy a car.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Booth on the go.
You mean buy a $100 USB mic and spend the other $12,000 on a car? Sounds good to me.
Exactly.
Could you use that microphone for your conversations on the phone in the car? Could you just be on a 416?
For your hands-free calls?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
That's hilarious.
The giant hard rod dangling down from the rearview mirror might prove to be problematic for any cops that are passing on by.
Eye level, just to
Sir, I have some concerns about distracted driving. You seem to be reading a 30-second script while traveling down the highway.
I had autopilot on.
Yeah, you'll poke your
Excuse
eye
me,
out.
sir. Are you recording this conversation?
Wait, I know you. You're the guy from e-learning module 3.
Yeah, I've heard your voice.
I've heard you at the station.
I heard you on the taser instruction video.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to Tribooth and Austrian Audio. Recorded using Source Connect. Edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging with tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.